Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and today I am joined by Sam Williams.
Greetings.
And young Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Hello.
How are we doing, gents?
Got a bit of gravel in the voice there, Mills, on the introduction.
I did notice, yeah.
A bit of husk.
I'm going for the just going for the croaky man effect. It's just like a filter that I've put on just for this podcast.
You've had some
nice.
feedback this week from our listeners saying they'd prefer you to be a little bit more husky if you can manage it.
And a little bit more Welsh if I could manage it. So I might just do the whole thing like this and see how it goes, see. Right, anyway.
Quick word from our sponsors. Before we get going.
No coffees today.
Well, I was thinking Taste. Probably be the unofficial sponsor of the last week.
Yeah, the coffees this week have been provided by Taste at full whack. Taste up at St Andrews. We did our morning run, had to wait in the queue just like everybody else. But you know, got to do your thing for the sponsors. We've been based up at St Andrews for the last week, doing some filming, haven't we, chaps?
What a
We
trip.
have indeed.
We should also clarify, joking aside, it was a piece of marketing work with Scotland Where Golf Began, which is part of a very exciting little Old Tom series. So in case anyone thought we were completely breaking any lockdown rules, to kind of get the project to where we need it to be, we need to make a bit of an early start, didn't we? So we kind of put it off as long as we could. And yeah, we managed to time it very nicely with the weather.
That sounds like a man who's been handling far too many angry DMs on the Instagram and the Twitter. I mean, yeah. But
Well,
seriously,
we had
a good
couple
bit
of
of disclosure. I know
messages.
you have a go at me for sounding like a lawyer now and then on the podcast, and there you are, just throwing out some caveats there. No, it is fair enough. Obviously, you know, things aren't totally back to normal yet, but we were very fortunate, obviously, to have some work like that come our way and get 3 brilliant days of weather for the filming as well. Really,
Well, we'll get on
Unbelievably
to
lucky.
what we did shortly. But I think if we rewind maybe a week, it might be able to outline why there were some empty promises on this podcast that perhaps we need to go and address. I think on the previous podcast, Sam quoted that we would be podding live like there was any other
You've
way
got to
pod.
pod live, haven't you? Can I just get this out there? You can't pod retrospectively. You can't pod in advance.
that's what we do. That's what we do all the time. Is a
To pod,
retrospective
you by
pod.
definition have to do it. We're podding live now, aren't we?
We are podding
We
live,
do.
even
We're
though
podding
it doesn't
live.
go out
Yeah, but it's not
live.
being consumed live. So
No,
that's
and
where
no
I think
podcasts are because they're uploaded and enjoyed retrospectively. Anyway, we digress, Mills.
We do digress, but we said that we were going to pod live about the Masters, and the Sunday of the Masters was the day of our travel, and we decided to go via automobile to St Andrews from Birmingham, which is about 7 hours in the car, and we got there with an early start the next day at Carnoustie. I think we had a 5 a.m. start to get up there for sunrise for the filming up there, and we all stared down the barrel of Hideki Win.
It's a 1 a.m. finish.
And we were looking at it sort of, 10 o'clock at night and thought, Christ, this just seems like a walkover. Do you know what we should do? We should pod now, like 4 holes before the end, and just say, yep, he's walked it, won it by 4, no problem at all. Release it live, let's go.
I just want to make absolutely clear that I was never on board with that, and I always thought that was a terrible call. So you two idiots, sure. I mean, but I was never ever taking part in that.
Yeah, well,
Well,
anyway, so
would
suffice
have
to
been
say
an
there was
issue.
nowhere near enough time to pod. By the way, on the way up, we turned that car into basically a traveling war room, didn't we? I mean, we packed an entire multimedia enterprise into the back, and I mean, you were firing away on the laptop. There was all sorts of stuff going, and unfortunately, the excitement just didn't quite carry us over, did it, till 1 a.m.
Well, it was the early start, I think, that put us off. But I think we should probably we'll talk about the trip, and then I think we'll go back and talk about the Masters. And
Oh, sequence. Hang on, we should sequence it first. I think we should talk about the Masters.
okay,
I
let's
think
do
so.
that. Okay, let's do that. I'll walk it back.
Because there's a few honourable mentions few honourable and dishonourable mentions. I think going chronologically seems to be the proper sequence of starting it. And yes, it did seem to start on a bit of a dishonourable note, didn't it? I mean, Wayne Player. Have we ever seen anything that could be better described as naked commercialism in our lives? Because that was just absolutely outrageous.
It's vile behaviour.
Okay, for the benefit of our listeners, just what happened? Well,
the honorary starters teeing off. Obviously, Lee Elder, being in that role for the first time, and what a terrific, moving story his was, being there on the first tee. And Wayne Player, in his wisdom, thinks that would be a great opportunity to hold up in the background a sleeve of Encore golf balls right over Lee Elder's shoulder, just to make everyone abundantly clear that actually, whilst it was brilliant what Lee Elder's story stood for and how the Masters was honouring this great man, just keep it in the back of your minds that there's some great golf balls out there that are an absolute steal. And whilst you're watching those opening tee shots, maybe you could just, fire up Amazon and order a few of those for yourself as well.
Okay, so Wayne Player's Gary's son, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Gary Player's been an ambassador for them a couple of years, I think.
There's two things that I'm going to raise here. Wayne Player is now banned from the Masters for life. Is that really a bannable thing?
Well, I think it's, you go back to when that tournament was created, and I'm pretty sure Bobby Jones wrote the rules that still sit on the card you get when you go through. There's like a series of rules, and the whole thing was it's a gentleman's tournament, and everything the Masters stands for is about kind of integrity and upholding standards. And that just flies in the face of it. I think it's just crass behavior. I mean, Gary Player just generally, I know it's not Gary Player holding the balls up, but I mean, it's hard. I think it's a good stretch to think he didn't have a hand in it somewhere. It just seems to be wide of the mark on judgment. I think that in isolation is appalling behaviour. But it's like it's Gary Player. You're just never surprised, are you? The guy just seems to put his foot in it.
But what's the difference between
Wayne Player's done it before
on his T-shirt? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's a different thing. When you're holding it over Lee Elder's shoulder,
there's some real conscious thought and activity going on there, isn't it? Where it's just like
behaviour. It's just not in the spirits, is it? I mean, we don't need to digress too long on this, but
he's done it before though. So I think he has. Yeah. He spent like 5 nights in a Georgia jail on charges of fraud. I think like a couple of years ago because he took a house for the week of the Masters and the check bounced and then he didn't pay. And I think he's sort of had a questionable history in around the Masters before. So I mean, it's just shockingly bad judgment from the guy. And he tried to pretend that he's like, I just wanted to make people aware of what ball my dad was teeing off with, as if that's at the front of everyone's mind. Absolutely, it was quite funny. On a separate note, I mean, Gary Player, I mean, it sounds like you've not got the best opinion of him, Sam, but I think it was quite amusing in the coverage. They showed him and Jack Nicklaus warming up on the range before they hit those ceremonial opening tee shots, which I just think is brilliant that those two guys who have had such successful careers and have been such fierce competitors have still got it in them that they're like, I want to absolutely rip that drive down the opening hole or as the ceremonial first tee shot. So I'm going to practice.
He just seems to be wide of the mark sometimes. That's all. I don't, he seems to have controversy around him a lot more than, Jack does by contrast, doesn't he?
I'll tell you what, though, if I were the MD of Encore, I'd be like, Wayne, here's your $100,000 bonus. You are an absolute hero. Everybody now is talking about Encore golf balls. Well done. Job done. Gary,
he actually issued an apology, the CEO did. But as you say, behind closed doors, who knows what was said?
I wasn't talking about Encore golf balls before this week. So, I mean, if that's what the objective was, then he's done it, hasn't he? Fair play. Naked commercialism right there.
Anyway, so that's the slightly dishonourable start that the Masters got off to. But I guess, yeah, I mean, it feels like we're kind of covering old news to a certain extent, but still a few storylines worth picking up on. I think the first one is just the fact that DJ and McIlroy both missed the cut, and how difficult that course was playing in the opening 2 rounds. It was quite surprising. Were there any? I mean, Sam, you obviously like a bit of a punt on the majors. How did you fare in that?
Well, I got 9 through on the
event?
gambling syndicate. So,
Right, okay.
I mean, just on the gambling, obviously, Michael Verity pricked Arias to Corey Connors, who's also having a great performance this week at Hilton Head. Zalatoris, although a lot of people are crediting Michael Verity, I think that was Tom's pick. So, bravo, Tom. It was surprising, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know, maybe just a bit of a reminder of how compressed these guys are in terms of their scoring averages and stuff. McIlroy just doesn't look at the races, does he? Just becomes a soundtrack of this podcast. Let's not wind. I know that's going in your quote bank along with, who is it? Mickelson doesn't stack up or something. What was that? What was the last one?
Yeah, that was exactly it. Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, a lot of big names missed the cut.
You could beat him around black cards, you reckon, Sam? McIlroy, yeah.
Maybe at the moment. If I got my new Sim
that's all I was
asked. I think it was a good tournament. We don't need to go through it in microscopic detail, given it's a week past the event. But I do think it felt like the action came on a Saturday. Sunday was a little bit fairly kind of tepid, wasn't it? I think to watch. I mean, Matsuyama just eviscerated the field on that back 9 on Saturday, which was amazing to watch, really.
You know, apart from McIlroy not being in it and DJ not being in it, we've also got a DQ for signing for a lower score with Matt Wolff.
Yeah, I didn't really.
He wasn't in the races anyway, to be fair, but
no, but I think it's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
And you can't believe that with the amount of, you know, tech around, everybody's got the score. How you could just get it wrong? Like, it's just unbelievable. It's hard enough to get it wrong on as an amateur, let alone, you know, you ask your partner, what did you get? He tells you what you got, and you agree and you sign, and that's that. Astounding.
So he signed for an artificially high score. Matt Wolff did.
Low score. He on the 17th.
Oh, I thought you could do one.
No, you could only
get
DQ'd for going high. Can't get DQ'd for mark. Sorry, you can only get DQ'd for marking lower. Can't be DQ'd. You just have to ride it out. So if you made a 6 and you put down a 10, you just have to ride with a 10. So you put down 2 low
basically
score,
punished 4 shots if you go high, but if you go low, you get punished for.
I mean, slightly beyond belief, isn't it? Yeah, and there was. I mean, it was quite nice though.
He wasn't in it though, was he?
No, he was missing the cut anyway.
I think it was nice when the week starts with a bit of controversy that ends quite nicely, and I thought just like how much of a difference a little gesture, Matsuyama's caddy at the end bowing to the golf course, that went viral, didn't it? And it was just you think that's a nice little touch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the respect there, it was lovely to see. And obviously that, you know, I think a lot of people quite rightly, and I'm not going to pretend like I know this, but a lot of people seem to suggest that's very much part of sort of Japanese culture and kind of philosophy, as it were. But there was a great point there, which is that it was a lovely thing to see, and just a stark reminder of how badly some pros talk about golf courses in historic places like Augusta, like DeChambeau calling it a par 67 back in November is about as far removed as you can get from someone bowing as a sign of respect. And actually, incidentally, on that point, I think someone worked out that relative to his own par of 67, DeChambeau is like 48 over, is he, in his last
something
8 rounds there or something?
Yeah.
So,
because he missed the cut last
sign.
6 rounds. It's like he's like 30 over or something like that over Bryson's par. It's it's brilliant stuff.
So the one thing that crops up in the last few weeks then would be wind droughts. So the last few weeks have felt like big successes for people on massive wind droughts. So Lydia Ko obviously won last night. Matsuyama, that's over 4 years or nearly 4 years since his last win.
I find that extraordinary.
Texas.
Yeah,
so Justin Ray was absolutely hammering the wind drought stats on his Twitter feed. So full disclosure on this one. But Spieth and Matsuyama, Spieth wins with 1,351 days. Matsuyama then wins the week after with 1,344 days.
Was Matsuyama's last win at the Phoenix?
WGC Bridgestone, I believe.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, I do remember watching that when he was just I think he won pretty comfortably there, but he just put on an exhibition at Firestone. I didn't realize it was that long though.
Yeah.
I really did not
But
realize.
isn't that
time,
weird
isn't it?
as well? The fact that you get the massive soundtrack for Spieth. Matsuyama hasn't won for 4 years. No one really talks about it.
No,
Yeah,
He's
but
in there
Spieth was
week in, week out.
But Spieth is a 4-time major winner, isn't he? 3-time major winner.
3.
And that's the difference. That former world number one, like I think that fall from grace was a big roller coaster, wasn't it? And Hideki's kind of just always been there, just not winning. He's kind of the Tony Finau, I suppose, just always there, just not winning.
He's not won majors. He has won some pretty, established events. So he's won like a WGC. It was a couple of WGCs, I think, or maybe it was at Firestone and then the HSBC Tournament of Champions. I think it might have been something of that order. And then obviously a couple of Waste Management. So he's got a really good record, and he's been as high as second in the world. But yeah, as you say, I guess that would probably be a reason why people talk more about Spieth, is because it was such a rapid rise to the top of the world rankings and winning majors. But yeah, Lydia Ko, obviously the third one you mentioned there, just snapped a 1,065 day out, I think. Brilliant.
These
to
are
see her
huge
win
distances
in Hawaii.
between winning, by the way. These are massive, like 3 and 4 years between clinching anything. That is nuts.
Yeah.
And I assume
Remarkable.
Stuart Sink, who is currently 5 shots in the lead, teeing off on Sunday. I'm assuming he hasn't won in a little while. Anyone got any stats on that?
I feel like he won sort of I don't want to say budget PGA Tour event, because that obviously hits the
But
ear
you've
slightly
said it
wrong,
now,
but
so-
I've said it now. So I think he's won a PGA Tour event that's perhaps not quite as highly sought after from memory. Maybe something like a Sanderson Farms or something recently. I could be wrong on that. But
he won the Safeway. In
Safeway,
2020.
there we go. Okay, great Googling as we pod. Mills always.
But that Safeway, here's a
You
win.
can always rely on Tom, can't you, mid-pod?
Well, that Safeway win in the 13th of September 2020, off the top of my head, roughly,
Just roughly.
was 11 years since his last victory. Now that's 3,600 days, and that was the Open. So that's a win.
Scary level of golf he's been playing at Harbour Town. I mean, whenever someone shoots a 61 or 2, 3, something around that, they always say
Never follow it up.
it's you can never follow it up. I think they even quote Tom Mills now and then. Doherty and a few other commentators have obviously been listening to the podcast, and they talk about regression to the mean. I don't know whether you've trademarked that or not, Mills, but
Should do, shouldn't I?
just ridiculous.
Did come up on Sky. I'll have you know it did come up
No,
on
it
Sky.
didn't.
They didn't say regression to the mean or the norm, but they did say when they start blistering really hot, they tend to trend backwards towards. And they said it in a roundabout way. I could tell they were trying
But
to say it off
they
their own
can't
words.
completely copy me, because then they would have to acknowledge the podcast, which they won't, or probably don't even listen to. So it's
But
just
you're right though.
was
Was
being
it
churlish.
back-to-back 63s?
yeah, lead by 5.
Scary.
takes
And got it
some
round
time
yesterday. Well,
though, doesn't he? Like him and his son, with his son on the bag, he takes some time talking about shots. It's like,
Does he?
it's getting hard. Like, just, is it a 5? No, it could be a 6. Could be a 6. It's all of a 6. Yeah, but it's an easy 5. Don't know what to do. Is it 6 or 5? Not sure. It's like, just fucking hit the ball. It's not that hard. Then he comes
I
up
think that
like
was
40
nosebleed
yards
stuff
short.
last night though. They were just they were going so hard. They had a nosebleed and they were just overthinking. But
Who's this?
Sink and Sink. I think the
Sink
father
squared.
son. Sink squared. Just on Harbour Town quickly, it's a proper equalizer of a course though, it feels, doesn't it? So
Awesome. Yeah.
seeing that happen last year, Webb Simpson from memory. I'm sure Tom knows off the top of his head in 30
it is
seconds
Webb
time.
Simpson. No, it is Webb Simpson.
It does feel like a good equalizer.
A lot of trees. So
You've played there,
narrow
Bruce?
playing corridors. I have, yeah. I played it in 5 years ago, 2016, something like that.
Is it tough?
I loved it. I did really like it. Yeah, I mean, you just got to hit it straight. Like, it's an honest test of golf, really. Like, you have to hit the ball straight, and they have small greens, and
That'll get it done most places, though. Hitting it
it's
straight.
not crazy long though. It's really not crazy long, but it's just like you have to be precise in where you're hitting to, because of where the dog legs kind of pinch in, and yeah, I mean, I like it. It's not a woke architecture kind of course, if you put it in that category.
Oh, it's got sleepers though.
But I really, really enjoyed it. And, it's one of those events where I've tuned into over the years, obviously, because I guess when you play courses, you'd like to kind of look back and obviously compare it to how you played it. But as you say, Sam, I think it's pretty cool to see who's won there over the years and how it's kind of it neutralizes the sort of bomb and gouge game, like seeing guys like DJ who can't just blitz it over the corner. The distances they hit it, they have to be even more precise with how they shape it and where they kind of fit it around the dog legs and things.
That finishing hole looks awesome, though.
Yeah, the finishing hole's totally different to the rest of the course, I guess, in a way, in that it's you're out there in the open basically, and you can just like nut one down that right side and not really worry about getting in any tree trouble. But no, I think it's an awesome place, and it would be good to see Stuart Sink hold on, really. Obviously, Morikawa is his closest challenger, but 5-shot lead at that level, with how good those guys are, you've got to think he's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, but tying some things back in. I mean, we talked about last week, Hideki had a 6-shot lead, I think, at one point, and kind of
9 to go, I think. Like that.
Just bled, and I think kind of the last.
No lead's big enough, is it, on the PGA Tour?
Everyone's so good, and you can't really bank on the fact that Stuart Sink can just turn up and knock an even par that round there and hope that's okay, because someone always goes low on Sunday.
You've got to feel like 2 under's going to get it done, though, for him. You think if he goes out and shoots 2 under, he's going to win.
But speaking of hitting it straight, we need to tie the stories back together, really. So our Sunday, after deciding not to podcast live,
that's a 6 out of 10 segue. You're not having any more.
You're not having it.
That was an average segue at best.
But you got to hit it straight.
I'll let you do it.
Yeah. Got to hit it straight at Carnoustie.
Well, exactly. I get it.
It's
nice. Which is what we watch. No doubt our listeners want to hear about is, our little trip.
Yeah. Well, we've got nothing else to talk about. So let's talk about Carnoustie. What were your thoughts going into it, Bruce? None of us have played Carnoustie, which I think was quite nice. That we had a chance to see it and gauge opinions for ourselves. What did you think of it?
Well, going in, so to answer your first question, like going into it, I think I had expectations that it was going to be, very, very difficult, quite a penal golf course. And I'd watched, like, for someone who says on this podcast how I don't really watch that much professional golf live, I watched the vast majority of the 2018 Open there, just because I think it was obviously Tiger's first time being back in contention in a major, and it's the Open, so it's one you watch anyway, or one I enjoy watching anyway, and all those things coming together. And so I had going in, I was like, I think I've got a pretty good idea of like what the holes on this course are and how they play. I wasn't sure on the routing of it, which is something that we all said when we arrived. Like, it was just hard getting your head around how, in many ways, it's actually quite a kind of small piece of land that it works its way around. And there's a lot of holes that kind of they almost run within an internal, kind of internally, as it were. So they kind of cross back on one another, and then you've got bits of the Burnside course that maybe come in and separate bits of the championship course. So it was interesting, like getting your head around the routing of it. And a lot of the holes I did kind of recognize from TV. I thought it was brilliant. Like I actually think it wasn't as penal as I was expected. Granted, the rough was down, but it was all out in front of you. There were no real gimmicks. I can just see how it is like a perfect place to host the Open Championship, because it can be really, really demanding, but it's always going to be fair, I think.
What do you think, Mills?
It was a good synopsis by Bruce. I think I was when I played, I was fairly intimidated. I mean, we got there, so we droned from like probably 6 o'clock, 6:15 for like an hour in what must have been sub-zero temperatures. Like my fingers just felt I couldn't operate the drone anymore. My hands were going to fall off. I just felt horrendous. And then it was like, right, boys, you've got to get out first. So get out in front of the field and just kind of crack on. And I couldn't feel my hands. And the first few holes just felt like championship golf. I just felt a bit like I wasn't up to scratch, really. I just nutted it round, felt a bit intimidated. Every shot felt long. But when you kind of get through that sort of 6th hole with Hogan's Alley, and then it kind of gives you a bit of a respite for a few, like till about 13, and they're all kind of good golf holes, but ones you can get. And then when you turn from 14 in was just like, now you got to play golf. They were
Builds,
tough
doesn't
golf holes. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, tough golf holes.
I mean,
wonder how
14 is the
much-
par 5, gives you a chance there, doesn't it? But then, yeah, as you say,
But it's got that
finish is
cavernous bunker in front
There's
of it,
trouble,
isn't
isn't there?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
there is still
Like,
trouble off the tee. Granted,
reachable
yeah.
fives. I mean, I found by the way, it's mega when we get out of the car. Shout out to Nathan, who starter and professional at Carnoustie, top guy, absolutely world class player. In fact, even better when he managed to secure a woolly hat for me from the draw somewhere, which we were so cold, weren't we?
That is the coldest I've ever been on a first tee. I would say
like
that
we were
now.
literally shaking tin off. So yeah, I think what I was going to say is kind of the brand of golf courses, because going in, like I was obviously amped to play Carnoustie. It's an open track. I've never played Carnoustie before, but I wasn't in the same level of excited you might have been for playing the Old, or, I don't know, even playing like a Birkdale for the first time or something like that. I don't know why that is, but a lot of people also say the same. They're like, yeah, I'd love to play Carnoustie, but it's never that sort of bucket list course. And I also think there's a brand in there in the difficulty. So similar to you, Mills, you like standing on tees. Mentally, I think making the course harder than it maybe needed to be.
For sure.
And when you got over that for a few holes, it was like, actually, if you hit the ball well and commit to it, you can get it round. I think we both said to each other on about the back end of the front nine in the morning, saying there's a few sort of Lytham vibes, i.e. really kind of the test is off the tee. And whenever you stand on the tee, you really need to lean on your strokes over, because you need to see where these bunkers are, because they will catch balls and they're all placed in the right spots.
Then there exactly is the right spots.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's if you're big enough to carry some bunkers, they've just got some sneaky ones behind it. It's just like, it's just hard. Yeah. It's hard off the tee.
You've really got to think. But when you're on the greens, 2 putts are pretty easy achievement. The back nine though, that's class, isn't it? Builds. It's like a crescendo. It's sort of 13 tough par 3, 14, 15. You're like, okay, these are getting really good now. And they play 16, 17, 18, which is just an obscenely difficult finishing stretch.
But I mean, brilliant though, because it's just that it's so clear. It almost, I think it narrows your focus in a way, and you kind of play a better standard of golf, because it's like, this is what you have to do. 16, there's no getting away from it. It's the best part of a 230 to 245 yard par 3, depending on where the pin is. And it's just hard to hold that green. So you hit a decent shot, and you're probably going to have to putt from off the green and hit a really good lag putt. 17, that's one of the most unique tee shots I've ever seen. Having to basically hit like a long iron or a wood sort of 240 or so onto the island. If you pull it left, it's just going to hit a really firm fairway and run into the burn. If you push it right, you're going to have a trickier lie. But yeah, you're then left with another sort of 190 to 200 yard shot in. Just awesome. And then 18, as you say, Sam, like, it's all on the drive there. Just, you've got a slop driver. You can't bail left because you're in the burn or further up your OB. If you bail right, you're in the burn. And even if you just kind of leak one, you're maybe in the bunkers. So it's just, I just thought it was such a brilliant test of golf. And I get that a lot of people don't want to go there and have their game put under a microscope, but there are a lot of other courses out there. And I think for people who really want to sort of see a course that isn't brutal, but it is testing, it's hard to think of many places better than that.
I would caveat it with, like we mentioned earlier on, like the rough. There was been some rough management. They chopped it down, basically with the idea of by the time it's summer, it's up again but thinner. Find your ball, but you're still punished, that sort of thing. So we were a little bit sort of had a bit more of a benefit off the tee than maybe we could have. But it was some golf course. I was really, really, really impressed by the whole thing and the whole place, really.
And then the really exciting part was Tuesday, wasn't it? So you've never played the Old, getting to see your little face on that first tee. That was an experience.
I mean, there's nothing like it, is there? The thing, first tee shot of the Old, we were the first group out. I ran down the fairway, put the camera in place, came back, got ready. Bruce tees off. Okay, is it my go? Yeah, tee in the ground. Looked up, addressed the ball, and thought, fuck. I'm on the old course, like I had jobs up until that point. I had things to do and I did those things and I kind of kept off pushing back what was about to happen. And then you stood there with, for those who haven't played the old course, literally the world in front of you. It's what's the fairway? Like 100 meters wide?
130, isn't it, something?
I mean,
Well, probably 120, 110 to 120 at the widest part. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and
It's enough.
it's actually quite disconcerting because you're not staring down a tree line, or you're not staring down bunkers thinking, right, I want to peel it off that. You're thinking,
Yeah.
where do I go? Just down the middle. Like
It's the opposite to Carnoustie that we're talking about, where it kind of channels your focus. Those
Yeah.
last 3 holes. First of the hole, it's like, oh my god, what do I aim at?
Yeah, it's on the line to the hole. If you're good and you hit a big ball and you hit a little bit of a block, then there probably is some trouble to be had. But apart from that, it's fairly
What did you make
trouble-free,
of it?
isn't
Because I mean, like, me and Bruce have played it before. I rate it. I think Bruce really rates it as well. But first time you've played it and going in, having done multiple podcasts with Mike Clayton, listen to people talk about the brilliance of the course, and then it's mega unique, isn't it? What was your take on it?
I can see why it splits people's opinions. It was a course that, to all intents and purposes, there's no dramatics to it. It's fairly tee and green are roughly on the same topography. It's kind of like, okay, it's a fairly topographically flat place. But then when you get to the green complexes and you see what's in front of you, I mean, it's just like, I think Bruce in the afternoon had a shot in on the second, and it was like he could only been about 25 yards from the pin, but just had no shot. Like, absolutely, there's nothing in front of him, just swales, but it was like there was no shot.
Yeah.
And that's the genius of it, isn't it? That it's by good luck or judgment. If you put the ball in the wrong place, you're going to get punished, and if you put it in the right place, you can score. And I think that's the point of a fair golf course, isn't it?
What was it like?
It's accessible to everyone. That course, I would say, on that note. And the premium on accuracy is definitely nowhere near as high as a place like Carnoustie, but I just think it is the most fun golf course in the world, really. And it's obviously, I'm biased because I spent so much time at uni there, but you always get that drama, like coming in, the town's getting closer towards you as you kind of play from maybe 12 onwards. It's just this building kind of sense of anticipation and pressure and then 16, 17, 18, it's fantastic.
One thing I would say is we didn't have caddies because of COVID and the restrictions that were in place, and obviously Bruce has played there, lived there, and played there a lot. And there are certain holes, you'll have to tell me, the par 5 on the back, 12, 14, where you kind of go left, and there's basically, right, now you need to go down the, what fairway? Fifth? Fourth fairway. You need to go down the 4th fairway. Don't go anywhere near the 14th, because that's hell if you go down there. Just don't go down there. Go down the 4th.
Yeah,
and it's
if you're
weird.
not going for him too, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know it, there's no way you could know that. I would say if you are going to play it like I did for the first time, certainly get somebody who knows what they're doing, because it does sort of help to know where you go in. And there's that sort of section around 8 to 12 that's all kind of crisscrossy and fairly confusing if you don't know what you're doing, I would say. But
yeah, I find 7 really hard. I find 7 a really difficult golf hole. I mean, I necked 2 balls morning and afternoon off the tee, which never helps. But I find it really awkward hole.
Where that
really,
pin
really
is
clever
tough.
hole. Yeah,
that is the toughest pin. Tucked on the right, kind of just under that, on that bottom tier, mini tier, really. Yeah, that is as hard as it gets.
But then, I mean, turning for home at 12 when we played in the afternoon, and it was howling into our face.
Well,
that was a completely different experience. The old.
That's what I was going to say. The morning, I mean, the old just showed exactly what it's about, because in the morning we played it in a fairly still conditions. We were basically primarily filming in the morning, so there was no really score taking going on, but it was fairly benign, and it was like just hit golf shots. That's fine. And in the afternoon, we probably 7 hours between those 2 rounds of golf. And the wind had just turned on, and it was down on the front and into on the back 9, and it was just you know, you just kind of don't feel it when it's downwind. You just kind of hit shots and think, yeah, this is okay. I can play golf. This seems
Game's easy.
doable. We turned round on sort of 12, and I was like, I really don't know how to play golf anymore. Like, this is just brutal.
Especially into the left to right wind there. I mean, where it's pushing you towards the OB coming in. It's tricky, and it's just, I mean, yeah, we were in that fortunate position where we'd had the chance to play it in the morning. So you're comparing yourself on clubs. It's like, yeah, granted, I didn't hit a great tee shot in the afternoon, but I hit driver 4-iron, I think, into 17. In the morning, I'd hit driver gap wedge. And it's like, that is an absolutely nuts contrast.
Well, speaking of 17 in the morning, how was it teeing off 17 on an Instagram Live?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden hits you when the tee goes in the ground, doesn't it?
I wonder how many followers, how many people listening to this tuned into that live. Quite a bit of pressure, actually. I mean, you felt quite a bit of pressure on that. You hit a good drive down there, didn't you, Sam? As you say, you snotted one down the middle, and then just proceeded to just get up there and half balled an 8-iron. You were so nervous.
I just got over and thought, this turf is really tight. Like, I felt like I was going to airshot this.
I've got to jump up on this one.
I really hope the camera was off by then, because I'd slotted drive, to use your expression, down 17. I was in the mayor's office, and I was like, just get
by the way,
off.
for a normal handicap golfer, I would say I represent the average man. That tee shot over the hotel is really, really scary. I didn't believe you when you're like, it's the O of hotel or whatever. I was like, no, that's somebody's garden, right? So I'll go down there, and that's where I'm supposed to go. And then I was miles left. But that's really scary. That
you can go
shot.
well right, can't you? It never.
We thought I was OB in the morning, didn't we? Yeah.
I hit a slice. I missed the ball right typically, and the number of times I've played it, I've never been further right than I've never been too right. Like, I've always been too cautious.
It's
scary, everyone, that's a claim there. We can hold Sam to that.
I might come back.
Anyway, final course of the leg, of the first leg, Crail.
Which
now
I think
is, I think, the sneaky, flying under the radar, but probably the most pleasantly surprising course that we played there. Really,
you were off. It was awesome driving there.
Wasn't
you were fully off tour.
We were all just a bit. I think we were all just a bit fatigued, weren't we? Realizing the stupidity of playing 36 holes a day, getting up at 5:30 a.m. and not actually getting off the golf course until 8 p.m. and just realizing what a stupidly ambitious plan that was. We were all just checked out a bit mentally.
Lunchtime. Yeah.
But Crail was an absolute gem, and I mean, shout out to David Roy, because I think we've had the fortune to meet quite a few club managers and secretaries in our time, doing story of a golf club and filming courses and getting to understand these clubs a bit better. And I mean, David Roy, just what an incredible guy there, who had such an unbelievable command of like the history of Crail and the history of Scottish golf more broadly, but also just made us feel so welcome there as well. Really, I mean, we've gone and rolled out the red carpet. Really, those greens were the best that we've putted on in certainly the last 12 months.
Yeah,
so for sure.
So when we were, Bruce, we were obviously COVID times and couldn't get a sandwich or a coffee. So Bruce, when we dropped me off at 7 o'clock in the morning to do droning, because we started a little bit later at Crail, because the first tee wasn't until 9 of anybody because of the frost. So we started at 7, did an hour. Bruce is right, boys. I'm going to go back to Taste, go back to the sponsors, make sure their pockets are filled, come back. And we're there, and I think we were all just kind of thinking, yeah, okay, this is going to be okay. And we were absolutely blown away by the whole place.
I don't know whether I tempered your excitement on it too much or something, because I'd played it 5 years ago and thought it was good, like really, really good, but not like right home about it good.
Mm. Oh, it was. Sam was sold. Sam was buying a membership before we left. He was like,
I was blown away. But it had the greens were the best we played on 12 months. The gorse was out. It was out in all the courses we played, but it's that beautiful sort of yellow gorse. Yes, it was lovely weather, but the tranquility, the experience, just the vibe when you were out playing the course was different. It was, kind of like that Brora feeling where there's just a different feeling in the air for some reason.
A lot of people just quite inquisitive, weren't they? Curious and like, oh, you're doing some filming work. That's awesome.
Like Chris Binder curious, or
it obviously also really helps, doesn't it, when you have brilliant sunshine, which we did there. And obviously the views are pretty dramatic, like looking across the kind of craggy shoreline and the Cape holes that you've been alluding to, Sam, on the front nine there. And I guess in a way, like if Carnoustie was the ultimate championship test of golf and the old course was a slight step down from that in terms of difficulty, Crail at sort of 5,900 yards just felt like real fun. And I know people say, well, yeah, it's not a long course, it's not that challenging. But to me, it just seems like a kind of false dichotomy, really, to think that a tough course is a good course, or a good course has to be a challenging course. Because we had so much fun at Crail, didn't we? Just kind of, letting loose on driver and some of the cool shots you get around the greens there, and just taking it easy, really, and not having to concentrate so hard over every shot.
I'd go as far as to say, I mean, we've played a lot of nice courses in Scotland now over our filming series, and take away the old, because I can't be a member of the old. But if I was going to play my membership golf somewhere, if I exam a membership and I lived in Scotland, I mean, you can't go wrong with playing every day at Crail. Like, you'd have a fun time every single time you stepped out on the golf course, which you can't say about a course that's got the potential to beat you up. You can't say it about Carnoustie, because
you'd be a good ball striker, wouldn't you? But it's too much every day.
Yeah, and you'd have fun every single day at Crail. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and mentioned Dave Roy earlier. Obviously, part of the tour on the way up was getting to interview some of the people who knew these clubs best. And I think, I want to say a bit of a shout out there and a thank you to everyone who we spoke to during the course of this trip, because it was brilliant learning more about these clubs from the people who know it best and have spent decades there. So at Carnoustie, Trevor Williamson, John Phillip, Pat Sawyers were all just an absolute delight to talk to. The old course obviously spoke to Laurie Watson, which was fascinating to get the Links Trust perspective on things, as well as Gordon McKee, who's the head greenkeeper there, and just gave us a pretty cool insight into what it's like looking after such a historic course, as well as Roger McStravick as well, who is probably the leading expert from what we can glean on old Tom Morris and indeed the Morris family. And then David Roy at Crail, like, obviously we're looking forward to sharing those interviews with you all in due course. But it was pretty cool just to kind of dig into some of the history there and find out more about Scottish golf in general. Obviously, old Tom Morris's legacy, which is what this project is working towards, and also the clubs themselves on a kind of individual basis.
Yeah, it was first class, wasn't it? I mean, John in particular, just jumping back to Carnoustie for a second. I mean, I was chatting to him before you guys were rolling with the interview and stuff, but unbelievable when you hear him talking about kind of when he came to Carnoustie, the course was really kind of, in the wilderness, really, for want of a better term, and bringing that back to championship standard and, being in charge of the links when, obviously Paul Lawrie won there in 1999, I think, didn't he? And kind of that year, and it's like, bloody hell. Yeah. Just incredible hearing about how he kind of went about setting the course up and all that sort of stuff. And, I know a lot of people say, oh, the course was set up too difficult. We'd never want to go back to those days again. But, Carnoustie is a course with a reputation there and, just fascinating, really. So many good people. I don't know why, but, they seem to come out of every single orifice in Scotland, don't they? These types of people with incredible stories in the game and so many different journeys. They'll exist in England for sure, but they just don't seem to be as many of them. Like they're just that, like, you couldn't move for people who wanted to just spend half an hour talking to you about, kind of stuff they've done in and around the game.
I think there's just a plethora of people in Scotland that are very proud of their golf course and they learn
passionate,
about it. They take time to learn about their golf courses and they want to tell you about their golf courses, which is brilliant because part of the reason we do what we do is to pass on the information that hopefully will last forever. And there's certain people that you talk to in the whole time that we've done, you realize they're only doing what they do. Like Sid Matthew, he was only wanted to pass on that information because he was aware that when he goes, that information's got to survive somehow. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Getting this information. But what I would say about doing research, what I'd say about doing research on these places, if you research Carnoustie and you look at the 2018 Open, and you see them driving the first with an iron. That's not how it plays.
Yeah, that was weird because we were going off there. I know we're kind of going on a bit here, but we were talking about going, these guys are driving it. And yeah, I mean, that played morning and afternoon, full
long.
driver 7-iron, but it was fully baked out, wasn't it, in fairness? And it was downwind.
It was like
whereas we were into, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled over the coming weeks and months for
Keep your ears
content. Which I'm not going to get sucked into that. I've probably made too many linguistic errors already on this podcast, but yeah, keep an eye out over the coming weeks and months for that content, which will be releasing. Yeah, there are some brilliant stories there. I think that hopefully you'll enjoy the slightly different pieces that we're putting out, because as I say, there'll be plenty of focus on the history of these clubs and figures like old Tom Morris and the kind of legacy that they have left at clubs like Carnoustie and the Old Course and Crail. And yeah, as ever, get in touch, smash that subscribe button, or is it smash the like button?
I can't believe Bruce has ever solicited people to subscribe, take activity, call CTAs, as you'd call them in the marketing business, call to action from Bruce Fitzpatrick here. I want to see people liking, subscribing, commenting. I want reviews. Thanks for checking out our merch drop in the week. I can tell you that 80% of our people listen on Apple Podcasts. While you're there, why don't you drop us a review? Tell us how good we are. It really helps us out.
Okay, now you've absolutely taken it too far. I see. I give you boys an inch and you take a mile.
I think I can see Wayne Palmer walking into your studio as we speak.
And do keep your eyes out, because in the coming weeks, we're going to release the tailor-made videos that we filmed when we were doing a fitting with those guys. So that's going to come out soon.
And if you can't keep them out, just keep them open.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See ya.
Adios.
You just
Watch
brutalized me in
this.
public.